The internet didn't just react to this story, it completely erupted into confusion when a wave of online speculation involving Cardi B, Offset, and NFL star Stefon started spreading across every platform at the same time. What began as casual commentary and fan theories suddenly turned into a full-scale digital storm where every clip, every post, and every reaction seemed to contradict the last one. Within hours, social media wasn't just discussing the situation, it was dividing over it. Some users claimed the entire narrative was being exaggerated by online commentary culture, while others insisted that the growing reaction wave itself was becoming the real story. Hashtags exploded, fan debates intensified, and creators rushed to upload breakdowns trying to explain what was happening, even though no one could agree on a single version of events. And just when it looked like things were slowing down, another wave hit. Older clips, unrelated interviews, and past public moments were suddenly pulled into the conversation, creating a confusing web of interpretations that only made the situation harder to understand. Now the internet is stuck in one massive question. Is this a real unfolding situation, or has social media once again turned speculation into a global spectacle that nobody can control anymore? This wasn't just another trending topic anymore. The moment that question dropped into the internet's bloodstream, everything changed from passive scrolling to full-scale digital obsession. People weren't just watching content, they were trying to decode it, argue it, and rebuild it into something that made sense. And that's when the first wave of interpretation hit. Clips involving Cardi B started circulating across platforms at insane speed. But what made it different this time was not the content itself, it was the way it was being framed. Every creator seemed to have a different version of the story, even though they were reacting to the same clips. One called it overreaction. Another called it misunderstanding. Another called it internet distortion at its peak. And none of them agreed. That disagreement is what turned everything into chaos. Meanwhile, commentary threads about Offset started getting pulled into the same conversation loop. Not because anything new was happening, but because users online began connecting unrelated moments into one massive narrative thread. Screenshots, old interviews, and past public appearances were being stitched together like evidence in a case that no one actually filed. And once that started, the internet lost structure. Because at that point, people weren't reacting to facts anymore, they were reacting to interpretations of interpretations. Then came the sports crossover. Mentions of Stefon suddenly appeared in trending discussions, not because of direct involvement, but because users started comparing how fast narratives spread across entertainment and sports culture. It became less about individuals and more about the system itself, how quickly attention can turn into chaos. And that's where things escalated again. Reaction creators began going live one after another. Each stream tried to break down the situation, but instead of clarity, it created more confusion. One creator would confidently explain a theory, only for another to immediately contradict it with equal confidence. The audience was stuck watching multiple realities form at the same time. And every new explanation made the situation worse. Because now the audience wasn't just consuming content, they were choosing which version of reality to believe. That shift changed everything. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. Fans started arguing not just about opinions, but about interpretation itself. Some users insisted the situation was being exaggerated by online culture. Others argued that the scale of reaction proved something bigger was happening culturally, not factually, but socially. And somewhere in that space, the original context got lost completely. At this point, even casual viewers who had no idea what started the trend were being pulled in through algorithm recommendations. The more people watched, the more platforms pushed related content. The more content was pushed, the more interpretations multiplied. It became a cycle. Not a story. A cycle. And cycles don't need truth to survive, they only need attention. Then something subtle happened that made everything more unstable. People stopped asking what actually happened, and started asking why everyone was reacting so differently. That question is where the internet fractured. Because once attention shifts from what is true to why are people divided, the original event stops mattering. The reactions become the story. The commentary becomes the event. And the audience becomes part of the cycle itself. And that's exactly what happened here. Different creators began building entire breakdown narratives based on audience engagement alone. The most dramatic interpretations got the most views. The most emotional reactions got the most shares. And slowly, the algorithm started rewarding intensity over accuracy, which made everything louder, and less clear, and more divided. Meanwhile, silence from the central figures in the conversation only made things worse. No clarifications. No unified statement. No reset moment. That absence left a vacuum, and the internet did what it always does in a vacuum. It filled it with speculation. Every hour brought a new theory. Every theory brought a new argument. Every argument brought a new wave of content. And the cycle restarted again. By now, even people outside the original audience were watching the situation unfold like a live experiment in digital behavior. Some were fascinated. Some were frustrated. Some were just confused by how quickly something so fragmented could dominate timelines across the world. And yet, it kept growing. Because the more uncertain it became, the more people wanted answers. And the more people wanted answers, the more content was created. And the more content was created, the further the truth moved away from the center of the conversation. Until finally, one uncomfortable realization started spreading quietly across comment sections. Maybe there was never going to be one clear version of this story. Maybe there never could be. And that's when everything started heading toward its next stage, where reaction, speculation, and interpretation would collide even harder than before. Maybe there was never going to be one clear version of this story. That thought didn't slow the internet down. It pushed it further. Because once people accepted that there might not be a single truth, the conversation changed again, from trying to solve the situation to trying to own the interpretation of it. And that's when the second wave of chaos began. Clips featuring Cardi B were now being reshaped in real time depending on who was posting them. One creator would frame a moment as confidence and control. Another would frame the exact same moment as frustration or miscommunication. The raw material didn't change, only the storytelling around it did. And that became the fuel. Meanwhile, older discussion clips involving Offset started resurfacing again, but this time not as isolated content. They were being stitched into long narrative threads by users trying to build a timeline that explained everything. But the problem was simple. The timeline didn't exist as a single structure. It existed as fragments across different moments, different interviews, and different interpretations. And that fragmentation made the situation unstable, because every attempt to connect the dots created more dots. At the same time, commentary culture around Stefon Diggs began getting pulled deeper into comparison discussions again, not because of relevance, but because audiences were using sports media cycles as a reference point for how fast narratives can escalate online. It was no longer about individuals, it was about the pattern of virality itself. And once that shift happened, everything expanded. Reaction channels stopped simply reporting commentary moments. They started competing with each other for interpretation dominance. Each creator wanted their version of the story to feel like the most accurate one, even though none of them had access to anything beyond public clips and audience perception. That competition changed the tone completely. Videos became sharper. Titles became more dramatic. Reactions became more extreme. And audiences became more divided. One group of viewers believed the situation was being overhyped by the algorithm. Another group believed the intensity of reactions proved something deeper was happening culturally. But neither group had definitive proof, only interpretations shaped by what they were watching. And that's where the real shift occurred. The internet stopped behaving like a single audience. It split into multiple audiences watching the same content differently. And those audiences started arguing with each other instead of the original topic. Comment sections turned into debates not about what happened, but about how people were supposed to interpret what they saw. One side accused creators of exaggeration. The other side accused viewers of denial. And in the middle of all that noise, the actual content became secondary. At this stage, even creators began reacting to each other's explanations. One breakdown video would spark another response video within hours. That response video would then be analyzed by a third creator. And suddenly, The original clips were no longer the center of attention. The commentary about the clips became the main event. This is where the cycle fully locked in. Content created reactions. Reactions created counterreactions. Counterreactions created deeper confusion. And confusion created even more content. And it kept looping. Meanwhile, the algorithm amplified whatever created the most engagement, regardless of whether it was clarity or chaos. So naturally, the most emotionally charged interpretations started spreading faster than balanced ones. That's when viewers started noticing something strange. No two explanations matched anymore. Even creators who agreed on the general topic disagreed on tone, meaning, and intent. Every breakdown felt slightly different, like multiple versions of the same event being told in parallel universes. And that realization made people uneasy, because it meant the audience was no longer consuming a story. They were consuming interpretations of interpretations of interpretations. And somewhere in that layering, the original context started disappearing completely. At the same time, silence from the primary figures in the conversation only added more uncertainty. No unified clarification came to stabilize the discussion. And in that silence, speculation became the default language of the internet. Every hour brought a new theory. Every theory brought a new wave of engagement. Every engagement pushed the topic further into the algorithm. And the algorithm never stops rewarding momentum. So the situation kept growing even when there was nothing new to add. Then something subtle but important happened again. People started shifting their focus away from what happened entirely, and instead started asking, why does the internet react like this every time? That question changed the entire tone of the conversation. Because now the topic wasn't the individuals anymore. It was the system. The system of virality. The system of reaction culture. The system of engagement-driven storytelling. And once the audience starts analyzing the system instead of the subject stops mattering, which means the cycle becomes self-sustaining. And that's exactly where everything now stands, suspended inside a loop where interpretation matters more than origin, and reaction matters more than resolution. But even in that chaos, one thing is becoming clear. This isn't slowing down. It's evolving. And whatever comes next won't just continue the conversation. It will reshape how the conversation itself behaves. And whatever comes next won't just continue the conversation. It will reshape how the conversation itself behaves. That line is where everything seems to be landing right now. Because after all the reactions, breakdowns, counter-breakdowns, and endless interpretations involving Cardi B, Offset, and commentary crossovers linked with Stefon Diggs, the internet has reached a point where the content is no longer the center of attention. The cycle is. And once a cycle becomes the focus, everything inside it starts losing individual meaning. That's exactly what viewers are starting to realize now. Across platforms, the tone has shifted again. What used to be loud arguments and fast-moving reactions has now turned into something more reflective. People aren't just reacting anymore, they're analyzing why they reacted in the first place. And that shift is changing how the entire situation is being consumed. Some viewers are calling it algorithm fatigue. Others are calling it viral overload. But the underlying pattern is the same. Audiences are beginning to see the structure behind the chaos. And once you see the structure, it becomes impossible to unsee it. Clips that once felt explosive now feel familiar. Reaction videos that once felt urgent now feel like echoes of each other. Even new uploads start to feel like variations of the same conversation repeating in different voices. And that's when the realization fully hits. The story was never just about one moment. It was about how quickly moments become multiplied, interpreted, and reshaped by millions of viewers at the same time. And in that process, meaning gets stretched, sometimes until it breaks. At the same time, creators are also starting to adjust. Instead of chasing pure shock value, some are now shifting toward explaining how the cycle works itself. They're breaking down engagement patterns, audience behavior, and the speed at which narratives evolve online. The content is becoming less about what happened and more about why everything feels like it's happening at once. But even that shift doesn't stop the cycle. It just adds another layer to it. because now viewers are not only reacting to the situation, they're reacting to the explanation of the situation. And that creates yet another loop. Meanwhile, silence from the central figures in the conversation still lingers in the background. No single statement has arrived that can fully reset the narrative. And in that absence, interpretation continues to fill every available space. But something important is changing now. The intensity is starting to plateau. Not because interest is disappearing, but because saturation is setting in. When every possible angle has been discussed, when every clip has been analyzed, when every theory has been argued and re-argued, the internet reaches a strange point where nothing feels new anymore, even when something technically is. And that's where the attention starts to drift. Not away from the topic completely, but away from the urgency. And in viral culture, urgency is everything. Without urgency, even the biggest stories slowly dissolve into background noise. So what remains now is a strange balance. The conversation is still alive, but no longer explosive. Still active, but no longer uncontrollable. Still circulating, but no longer defining the entire internet in real time. And yet, the lesson from all of this stays clear. The internet doesn't just amplify stories. It transforms them. It takes small moments, fragments of commentary, reactions, and interpretations, and builds entire ecosystems of meaning around them. Sometimes accurate, sometimes distorted, sometimes completely self-generated by the audience itself. And once that process begins, there is no single point where it ends, only points where attention moves on. So as this wave begins to settle, what's left behind isn't just a trending topic or a viral moment. It's a pattern, a reminder of how quickly digital culture can take a spark and turn it into a global conversation that no one person controls. And that brings everything back to the same final thought that started this entire journey. Is the internet reacting to stories, or is it now the one creating them in real time? Because once that question becomes normal, every new clip, every new reaction, and every new controversy will feel less like an isolated moment and more like part of an endless system that never truly stops evolving. And maybe that's the real headline no one can escape anymore. Not who said what, not who reacted how, but the fact that in today's world, the reaction is the story. Before you click away, understand this. What you just watched isn't just another viral discussion. It's a glimpse into how fast the internet can turn reactions, commentary, and speculation into a global wave that spreads far beyond control. From Cardi B to Offset, and even discussions crossing into sports names like Stefon Diggs, this whole cycle shows one thing clearly: attention moves faster than truth ever can. And here's the reality most people miss. By the time a story feels finished online, it has already changed shape again somewhere else. New clips appear, new reactions drop, and the cycle restarts without warning. That's why staying updated isn't just about curiosity anymore. It's about keeping up with a constantly shifting digital world. So if you followed this breakdown till the end, don't stop here. Stay connected, because the next wave of reactions, commentary, or viral clips can flip the entire narrative again at any moment, and most people only see it after it's already everywhere. Make sure you're subscribed and notifications are on, because in this space, timing decides everything. The people who catch it early understand it best. Everyone else is just trying to catch up after the internet has already moved on. Now it's your turn. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the internet is just reacting too fast, or is this exactly how modern media is supposed to work now? Stay tuned, because this cycle is never really over. It just evolves.